it is a very, very special pleasure to greet you all here. I want to greet very specially also the students that are here from Bern and from Freiburg, and the teachers that came together with them. Thank you for coming. As you have seen, maybe, we had several gifts already here this evening. And one of the gifts, a part of your coming, that I will introduce soon, was given as a surprise from a person from Yochai Amram. And this was this little food you find there before this moment here. And you will find a little bit more after the lecture. And it is a gift from Yochai because your son, Rami's son, was his student in Jerusalem. And when he saw that Rami would be here, he said, I want to do something also for this meeting. So thank you very much for this gift, Yochai Amram. Bassam and Rami will be introduced by Udi Levy. And my task is to introduce now a little bit Udi Levy, who is finally the person who enabled us to have this evening here together. And Udi maybe is known by some of you. He was for the first time coming from Israel to the Goetheanum when he was 7. And then you never stopped coming, and this is our gift. He grew up in Israel, in Jerusalem, and there he worked for curative education for many, many years together with Orna, whom I also want to thank deeply for enabling all that, what's happening here. Yes. And together they founded an institution, Kfar Raphael, there, and they worked for many, many years, for decades there. And then they came to Switzerland, and they worked nearby Winterthur. But there is a bridge, always, to this far and close piece of land that are suffering so much now, and we will hear about that and these bridges. And so, Udi, thank you so much for introducing our friends and for enabling that. And my last words will be that we are very happy for any contribution in the going out. And it will be partially for the parent circle you will hear about here, and also to make this evening possible. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Grüezi miteinander. I'll switch to English, and excuse me if my first words, I'll have to look at my card because you are so many and and we are so little. And we are so little here. 18 years after 1949, when many Palestinians had been expelled from the land that became the new founded state, Israel occupied Palestinian territories in 1967. 3 years later, I visited the Goetheanum, hoping and speaking about the soon coming Israeli withdrawal from those territories, which will make it possible for peace to prevail in the region. A hope many of us young people had, a disappointed hope. Some decades followed. The desire for peace shrunk and reduced to the dimension of some individual peaceful relations between individual human beings. while war is ruining cities, fields, and so many lives. In present, many souls are under occupation as well by negative emotions, by disappointment, rage, fear, revenge, anxiety, trauma, sadness, and despair. The Middle East is not an example for freedom, peace, and reconciliation. However, peace between those two extraordinary, noble men beside me here is a radiating example, in spite of having a background of awful pain, of another healing alternative option, freedom from self-occupation and negative emotions. Let us follow them. I thank the Goetheanum for the opportunity to meet those two wonderful men here and to meet all of you here in this hall. Moreover, I thank you, Bassam and Rami, for coming here to an institution that intends to be a shrine for the wisdom of man, Anthropos Sophia, wisdom which permanently should be permeated by love. Hardly anyone can present a stronger testimony for that, but you both. So again, thank you so much for sitting here in front of this audience. And I would like to ask you to introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what brought you together, something of your personal becoming as human beings, of your biography, about your friendship, about your brotherhood, about your vision. Tfaddalu.
Thank you, Udi. Thank you all for coming over here and taking the time to listen to our very sad stories. I hope and wish and sure that in the end of this evening you will get out with a little bit of hope. This Palestinian terrorist to my left is my dear brother, Bassam Aramin. In many ways, he's the closest person to me on earth. He's much closer to me than many of my own people, many of my own family. What makes us so close is the price that we both have paid as an outcome of this ongoing conflict between our two nations. We don't need words to understand each other. We share the same kind of pain. For me, Bassam is a leader. I look up to him. I admire him. I take a lot of strength out of him and my other brothers and sisters, Israelis and Palestinians, members of this unique organization of ours, the Israeli-Palestinian Bereaved Families for Peace, the Parent Circle, which is probably the only organization on earth that does not seek new members. My name is Rami Elhanan. I'm a 75 years old graphic designer living in Jerusalem, 7th generation. My mother was born in the old city of Jerusalem, an ultra-Orthodox Jewish family. My father came to Israel in 1946 after spending 1 year in Auschwitz. He was very badly wounded in the 48 war. She was the nurse that took care of him, and this is the reason why I'm able to speak to you right now. I am a Jew.
No one is perfect, it's okay.
I'm an Israeli. And more than anything else, I'm a human being. The story I'm about to tell you this evening starts and also ends on one particular day of the Jewish calendar. It happened 2 days ago, Yom Kippur. This is the holiest day for the Jews. This is the day where we ask forgiveness for our sins. On this very day, 51 years ago, I was a very young soldier fighting this horrible October 73 war. We have started this war with a company of 11 tanks. We finished it with only 3. I have lost over there in the desert of Sinai across the Suez Canal some of my very close and best friends, and I came out of it a very angry and bitter and disappointed young man with one determination: to detach myself from any kind of involvement or commitment. I got out of the army. I went to Bezalel Art School to become a graphic designer. I met my wife, I got married, and I had 4 kids. And 41 years ago, on the very day of Yom Kippur, my daughter was born in Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem. Her name was Smadar. The name Smadar is taken from the Bible, the Song of Solomon. It means the grape of vine, which means the opening of the flower. She really was a very sparkling and vivid and joyful and energetic little girl. She was very beautiful. She was an excellent student. She was a swimmer. She was a dancer. She played the piano. She was absolutely something else, and everybody used to call her the princess. And we lived a very good life in our house in Jerusalem. My wife, which is a professor for education in the Hebrew University, my 3 boys, and this princess. It seemed to be the perfect, sheltered, protected lives. In so many ways, you could say that we put ourselves inside a big bubble, completely detached from the outside world, minding our own business. I was doing graphic design for the right wing, for the left wing, whoever paid me. Life was beautiful. And this went on until about 27 years ago. On the 4th of September 1997, just a few days before Yom Kippur, this bubble of ours was blown up to millions of pieces. 2 Palestinian suicide bombers, Hamas members, blew themselves up in Ben Yehuda Street in the center of Jerusalem. They killed 5 people that day, including 3 little girls. One of these girls was my 14-year-old Smadar. It was Thursday afternoon, and the beginning of a very long and cold night, which continues until today. At first, when you hear about the explosion, you keep hoping that maybe this time this finger will not turn towards you. Gradually, you find yourself running in the streets, trying to find her. She completely disappeared. You go from hospital to hospital, from police station to police station, many long and frustrating hours until eventually, very, very later that day, you find yourself in Abu Kabir, in the morgue, and this finger is stuck right between your eyes, and you see this sight which you will never, ever be able to forget for the rest of your life. And then you come back home. The house immediately is filled with thousands and thousands of people coming to pay respect, to offer condolences. You are enveloped by these thousands of people in a very admirable tradition that is designed to ease your passage to the new kind of life which expects you. On the 8th day, they go back home to the normal everyday businesses. Suddenly you are left alone. You need to wake up. You need to stand up and face yourself. And you have to make a decision. What are you going to do now with this new unbearable burden on your shoulders? What are you going to do now with this new personality of yourself, which you never thought could have existed? What are you going to do now with this anger that eats you alive from within? There are only 2 options to choose from. And the first one is obvious. When someone kills your 14-year-old little girl, you are so angry. And you want to get even. When someone punches you in the face, the automatic response is to punch back, which is natural, which is human, which is the way most people choose, which is what creates this endless cycle of violence, which never stops, which is exactly what we are suffering from today. But then after a while, you start to think, you know, we are human beings, we are not animals, we can use our heads. You start asking yourself questions. Will killing anyone will bring her back? Will causing pain to someone will ease this unbearable pain? And the answer is certainly not. So in a very gradual and complicated process to come to the other option, which is much more difficult, trying to understand what happened here. Why did it happen? How could such a horrible thing take place? What can cause someone to be that angry, that mad, that desperate, that hopeless, that he is willing to blow himself up with 14-year-old little girl? Do you have any kind of connection to it yourself? Maybe some kind of responsibility? It's not easy, it takes time. It took me almost a year. About a year later, on some occasion, I met a big man who changed my life completely. His name was Yitzhak Frankenthal. He was a religious Israeli Jew, you know, with a big kippah on his head. And you know how we tend to put people into drawers, and we stigmatize people, and we judge people by the way they dress, what they put on their heads, around their necks. And I was certain that this guy, Yitzhak Frankenthal, was a fascist and a right-winger, that he eats Arabs for breakfast, and I prepared myself to fight him. And we started talking. He told me about his son, Elik, a soldier who was kidnapped and murdered by Hamas in 1994, and about these organizations that he created of people who lost their loved ones, Israelis and Palestinians, who still search for peace and fought for peace. And I looked at him, and I remembered that this one, Yitzhak Frankenthal, was one of these thousands and thousands of people that came to my house a year ago during the 7 days of mourning, and I went crazy. I was so angry with him. I asked him, how could you do it? How could you step into someone's house who just lost his daughter and talk about peace? How dare you? And he, being the great man that he is, was not insulted. He just invited me over to watch a meeting of this group of crazy people. And to tell you the truth, I got a little bit curious. I said, okay. I went to see. It was 26 years ago. I was standing aside, very detached, very reluctant, and very cynical, as I always am. And I was watching those people coming down from the buses. It was a big meeting. It took place in our late president, Ezer Weizman's house. And for me, those people were living legends. I used to look up to them. I used to admire them. I used to read about them in the newspapers. I never, ever thought that one day I will become one of them. People who lost their loved ones and still search for peace. I saw people like Yaakov Guterman, a Holocaust survivor from Kibbutz HaOgen. Yaakov lost his son, Raz, in the First Lebanon War, and he was one of the first Israeli bereaved fathers that had the guts to demonstrate against this evil war in Lebanon in times where you need to be a very brave person to do so. I saw people like Ronnie Hirschzon, a very close and dear friend of mine, who was known in Jerusalem to be a peace activist. And Ronnie lost his 2 boys, 2 soldiers in this ongoing conflict, has still remained highly motivated peace warrior. And then I saw something else. Then I saw something which was completely new to me, to my mind, to my eyes, to my soul. I was standing there watching the Palestinian bereaved families coming down from the buses, walking towards me, shaking my hand for peace, hugging me, crying with me. And I was so deeply moved and so deeply touched. You see, I was 47 years old at the time. And until today, I'm ashamed to admit it was the first time ever in my life I have met Palestinians as human beings. Not as workers in the streets, not as terrorists, not as transparent people, as human beings who carry the same burden that I carry, who suffer exactly like I suffer. And I was so moved. I remember seeing this old Arab lady coming down from the bus with this long black traditional Palestinian dress. And she had a picture of a 6-year-old kid on her chest, exactly like my wife carried the name of our daughter Smadari on hers. I'm not a religious person, I'm afraid. I'm not the greatest believer on earth. I have no way of explaining what happened to me back then, 26 years ago. All I can tell you is from that moment on, until today, I devote my life to go everywhere possible, to talk to anyone possible, people who will listen, people who will not listen, to convey this very basic and very simple message, which says we are not doomed. This is not our destiny to keep on killing each other in this holy land of ours forever. It's not written anywhere, and we can change it, and we can change once and for all this endless cycle of violence and revenge and retaliation, and the only way to do it is simply by talking to each other, because it will not stop unless we talk to each other. I believe deeply that one can teach himself how to listen. I believe deeply that once you are able to listen to the pain of the other, you can expect the other to listen to your pain. And then, together, start this very long journey towards reconciliation, maybe some kind of peace in the end. This is a very long and bumpy road, and there are no shortcuts. But this is the only way possible, because the other way leads to nowhere. And the price of the other way, believe me, is horrible. So this is what we do at the Parent Circle. We are about 750 families. We are banging our heads against this very high wall of hatred and fear under one common denominator. We are not politicians. We don't draw maps. We don't phrase articles. We believe that what unites us, our common denominator, is our pain. And the pain is caused by the abnormal situation in which one people is dominating another, the Israeli occupation of the Palestinians, and it must be changed. So we bang our heads against these walls and we put cracks in it, crack after crack. And through these cracks, a little light comes in, a little light can drive away a lot of darkness until we will put those walls down, because the alternative is too painful. And we have an enormous ally on our side, which is the power of our pain. You should know that the power of pain is tremendous. It's very much similar to the nuclear energy. And like this horrible energy, you can use it in order to bring darkness, destruction, pain, and death to people. And you can use it in order to bring light and warmth and hope. So we go around the country, we go around the world, we go everywhere possible. We talk to Israeli kids, we talk to Palestinian kids. And we tell them that our blood is exactly the same color, that our pain is exactly the same pain, and our tears are just as bitter. And if we, who have every reason on earth to want to kill each other, if we can call each other brother, anyone can, anyone should. Thank you very much for listening.
Bassam, the stage is yours.
Finally?
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. Shalom. Erev Tov.
Guten Abend.
As you prepare your breakfast, think of others. Don't forget to feed the doves. As you conduct your wars, think of others. Don't forget those who seek peace. As you go to pay your water bill, think of others, of those who only have the clouds to drink from. As you go home, your own home, think of others. Don't forget the people of tents. As you think of others, distant others, think of yourself, and wish you are a candle in the darkness. This is our national poet, late national poet, Mahmoud Darwish. My name is Bassam Aramin. I'm a Palestinian, and this is not my guilt, believe me. I born to a Palestinian family. I born in a cave, very simple family, very small family. We are 16 brothers and sisters only. It's considered to be a small family in Palestine. It's very difficult to be a Palestinian. It's very difficult to grow up under strange occupation. Strange people that they don't look like us. They are more beautiful, of course, blunt. They don't speak our language. We don't understand their language. And we don't know as kids why they come to control our lives, in our neighborhood, in our village. So it's very easy to hate them. And you don't need education to hate those strangers. They are very brutal for us. Briefly, at the age of 13, I found myself as a fighter or a warrior. When, with other 4 kids, we create a local military group, we call it, and we start our struggle by raising the Palestinian flag at night on the trees around our school to make the Israeli soldiers nervous and crazy. This was our mission, and I don't know why they hate this flag. So we use it as a tool to make them crazy. At the age of 16, we find some old weapons in a cave. You know, I became familiar with caves. With 2 grenades and other military materials that we don't know how to use it. But 2 of my friends throw the 2 grenades on the Israeli patrols, soldiers, in our village near Hebron. And in that time, of course, no one killed, no one injured, because they don't know how to use it in a professional way. And 1 year later, all of us have been arrested. So the first one gets 21 years in jail, 19, 15, 14, and I had 7 years only. I learned in jail, if you know your enemy, you can defeat him or you can kill him. If you only hate him, you will kill yourself. So in fact, I said, I want to kill my enemy and not myself. So I start to study Hebrew, the language of the enemy, to know how to kill Rami in that time. Sorry, it's not personal. A few months later, I watched a movie about the Holocaust in jail by chance. Did you hear about the Holocaust, by the way? A little bit? So what I know about the Holocaust in that time, someone called Hitler, I don't know from where this Hitler, killed 6 million Jewish people, but it's a big lie. It's never happened. I never thought about it. In jail, I understand these movies about Hitler and the Jews, and in fact, I want to enjoy seeing this movie as kind of revenge. In spite it's a big lie, just to see someone torture those Jews, kill them, arrest them, occupy them, because I am in their jails, in the personal level. So what happened after a few minutes, suddenly I found myself crying, get sympathy with those innocent people. I start to hide my tears from other prisoners because I am crying for the Jews and we are in their jails. In fact, I didn't expect to see such atrocities. I don't believe that they are human beings, can do the same to other human beings. Remember, I am a very simple terrorist. I was born in a cave. It's against the nature of the human beings. In fact, it's a long story, but I decided that I want to know more about this big lie, if it's really happened or it's just a movie. In fact, because I want to try to understand the brutality of the Israeli soldiers when they come to my village. It's unbelievable, their behavior. So I said to myself, maybe they watch such a movie, then they come to my village, absolutely they will lose their humanity. And they will act in this brutal way. And if this thing happened to us, to the Palestinians, maybe we will lose our humanity too. It means, even in jail, I have no idea what happened to the Palestinians in 1948, which we call it the Palestinian Nakba, which is the creation of Israeli state. So in fact, this movie stayed with me for many years after that, more than 25 years, when I have the opportunity in 2010, 2011, to make my master's degree about the Holocaust in Bradford University in the UK. Then after that, I start to visit death camps in Germany. But remember, it was like a tool to know your enemy in order to know how to fight him, to kill him, to defeat him. Then I understand something very important, and especially for the young people here. If you know more, you act much better. If you don't know, simply you don't know. In fact, I prefer it's much, much better not to know. Yeah, because you agree with yourself always, which is the best. You are the chosen people, the chosen religion, the best music, the best food, the best coffee like the Italians. And when you start to know something different, you start to suffer because you cannot keep silence. A few words about, it's a long 7 years. Briefly, their goal is to kill our humanity every moment because we are the bad guys, we are the killers, we are the terrorists, we are the fanatic, we are Daesh, we are ISIS. And for us, we educate ourselves. They are not our example. We are freedom fighters. They are the terrorists. They are the killers. They are the settlers. They are the occupiers. You need to justify your moral side inside you in order to continue to fight. So they never broke us. You just become more determined to continue your way, your struggle against this occupation. Briefly, I get released after 7 years, and I still believe in armed struggle as the only way to talk to those occupiers. 1 year later, suddenly we have peace. Oslo Agreement. Do you know where is Oslo? Yes? Because the Americans, they don't know. For the first time between PLO and Israel, I start to see the same ex-killers, the same ex-terrorists, the Palestinian prisoners. They became generals in the Palestinian security forces. They became the Palestinian Authority, and they start to meet the Israeli generals who arrest them personally before 15 to 20 years ago. It's unbelievable. So I say to myself, so why I spend 7 years in jail? Just to shake hands with those occupiers? I can do it without going to jail. But I discover more than 100 years in that time, we are trying to kill each other, to defeat each other, in spite Israel with the United States of America, with the rest of the Europe against the Palestinians. But believe me, we forget to die. We're still there. But more blood, more pain, more victims. So Oslo Agreement gives us a sign, maybe through negotiations, we can achieve something. Because until today, Israel is not safe and Palestine is not free. So we need to change our way to achieve our goal. In fact, I start to be active in my society, in the Palestinian side, without any connection with the other side. So it's for myself, my family, my people. In fact, if you live in peace, you start to think peacefully in a different way. So in fact, I said I want to create my own life, my own family. So I get married. Then I discovered that I put myself in the other jail forever with my own hands. We called it the Golden Jail. Then suddenly I have 6 kids, which is worse than the Israeli occupation. It's a lot of responsibility. But I decide that I will never allow to my son to be in the Israeli jails because he don't know or because he want to raise the flag. I am here. I have the experience. I know how to educate him, how to raise them up. This is what I thought. In fact, after, like in 2002 and 2003, I hear in the Israeli media about something called refuseniks, which is ex-Israeli soldiers and officers who refuse to serve in Palestine or the occupied territories for very strange reasons for the Palestinians or for me. They said because they love Israel, because it's against the Jewish values, and it's against the Zionist values, which is unbelievable. Zionist with values, it doesn't work for the Palestinians. So who's those people? In fact, I wish to meet them to really know why they stopped occupying us or serve in the Israeli army. After 2 years, in 2005, we have the first meeting between 4 Palestinians, ex-prisoners, of course. I was one of them, with 7 ex-Israeli officers. Rami's son was one of them. This is how I get to know this noble enemy in 2005, since we met for the first time. He fell in love with me. It was the most difficult meeting in my life. For the first time, you are going to meet your real enemy, and you need to stand up even, because we wait for them. You need to smile and to shake hands. It's the most difficult thing. I start to talk myself, to my loyalty to myself, not to the Palestinian people. How can I forget 7 years in jail only? We can see the fear in their eyes. It's the first time they come to meet the Palestinian ex-terrorists. They are very scared. So from this meeting, we continue to meet for 1 year. We became 300 members until we discovered that we are the same. We have radical disagreement about everything, but we are very similar. We discovered that, yes, we want to kill each other to achieve the same thing. We want peace and security. Of course, each one from his point of view. So if you're familiar with Jalaluddin Rumi, and for the young people, Rumi, before 900 years, he says, beyond right and wrong, there is a field. Let us meet there. In spite, personally, I know who's right and I know who's wrong. In spite of that, we said, let us meet. Maybe we can survive together. So then we create a movement. We call it Combatants for Peace. And our slogan was what Nelson Mandela says. If you want to make peace with your enemy, you need to work with your enemy, not only to talk. Then your enemy become your partner. And this was our goal, to create a real partnership between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And I discovered that we don't need to love each other, by the way. We don't even need to like each other. I still love you. But we need to respect each other. Always I said, you can enjoy hating me forever. In the end, you will have heart attack. Respect me, my borders, my right to exist, to live in peace and dignity. I will respect yours, and you can hate me. In fact, 2 years later, in the 16th of January 2007, I lost my 10-year-old daughter, Abir, to an Israeli border police from a distance of 15 to 20 meters in her head from the back. Abir fell down, and 2 days later, she passed away in Hadassah Hospital, where she born, and where Smadar born and died. Between Abir and Smadar, it's 10 years. But we don't know each other. But we know our common enemy, who take off the lives of our daughters. It's the Israeli occupation. If there is no occupation, we don't need to kill each other. We don't need to fight each other. 2 hours later, I received my brother Rami and his wife and more than 30 Israeli families who stay with me 2 days in the hospital to pray for little Abir until she passed away. In the evening, we have like a press conference in the hospital. I was the co-founder of Combatants for Peace. So what will happen? I said from the beginning, even if the worst happened, she was in a very critical situation. If the worst happened, we need to double our efforts to achieve peace. And I wish my daughter will be the last victim between the Israelis and the Palestinians. I am not going to give up. I will follow those killers in the court even after 100 years. But unfortunately, the Israeli authorities will close the file, and they will say, because lack of evidence. This is what I said. It was in the Israeli Channel 2. The answer of the Israeli Supreme Court was, after 4.5 years, the mother have the right to know the killer of her daughter. But because it's 4.5 years, and because lack of evidence, we close the file. It's the most typical Israeli answer. All the Palestinians know it in advance, including myself. In fact, I met the victim who killed my daughter after 3.5 years in the Israeli court in Jerusalem. And when I faced him, I said to him, you are not a hero. You are not a warrior. You didn't kill the enemy or the terrorist, you just killed 10 years innocent girl. And if you are proud of what you did, you can enjoy your crime. I don't ask for revenge because I don't take revenge from victims. For me, you are not less victim than your victim. But in any day in your life, if you come to ask me to forgive you, always you will find me there. But it's not because of yourself at all. It's because of myself. In spite, I am an Arab and a Palestinian and a Muslim. I discovered that I love my daughter very much. And because I have another 5 kids, I don't want them to grow up as victims to you. And you are victim by yourself. In fact, 2 days later, I joined the Parents Circle Families Forum because I know my brother Rami 2 years before. I am familiar with those noble people. But in my worst dream, I don't want to join this amazing group. Finally, Jerusalem, especially Jerusalem, is a holy place for the Christians. In spite they keep silence right now. It's a holy place for the Jewish people. It's more than holy for us, for the Muslims. Jerusalem, we call it the capital of the sky, the widest city on earth, the key of the sky, because we believe in our faith that the paradise will be there in Jerusalem. So it's a matter of faith. And with faith, you cannot argue simply. In spite, all of us love Jerusalem. We kill each other for Jerusalem. And we meet each other under the ground of Jerusalem. And I am not sure if Jerusalem know who we are. So it's up to us to live side by side or together, or unfortunately, we will continue to sacrifice the blood of our kids to protect the holy stones of Jerusalem. We need to share this land, not this land, it's very cold, to share that land as 1 state or 2 states or 5 states. Otherwise, we will share the same land as 2 big graves to our kids, our families, and our people. I don't see the Israelis will never give up their safe place after 3,000 years of their history of slavery and discrimination and anti-Semitism and the Holocaust. And I don't see the Palestinians after 3,000 years from tonight. We will never ever accept the Israeli occupation or the Israeli control or whatever you call it. We must be free. So it's up to us, and we decide to liberate ourselves. We decide to create our own state. Sometimes he's the president, sometimes the prime minister, but always he decides because he belongs to the chosen people, and I agree with him. Thank you very much for listening. I think we deserve water.
We have a secret agreement between us that all the difficult questions will
go to him.
You can ask any questions that come to your head, political, personal. Don't have mercy. Please, shoot.
I would like to mention something that you probably most of you know, that there was a novel written by an Irish novelist about these 2 men here.
2 strange people.
These enemies, a pyrogon. Can you say something about the process of becoming? Because I suppose that this interaction with the writer was not only easy for you. It was a living through everything again and again and again.
He was looking at you.
And you will continue after that.
Well, I can continue if you don't want to say anything.
Yeah, and in fact, it was like a normal talk for us with around 20 people, Americans. And this was our third or fourth lecture that day. And we were exhausted, but we told the story.
Exactly the one that you heard now.
Exactly, and one of those Americans, he started to weep. And it's normal, you know. Everyone think about himself, my stories, your story, which is very human. But for us, it was like too much. And so I said to Rami, let us go and comfort him. In fact, after we talked, he said, I'm a writer and I want to write a book about you. So I said, yeah, thank you, it's okay. And he said, no, you don't understand. I want to write about your story. I said, yeah, I understand, it's okay. There's no problem.
You're not the first one.
Then again, he said, I am a novelist. I make stuff and something. I said, I understand, believe me. Yeah, you can do it. So then later I discovered that I don't understand. I don't know this man at all. And many people offer us, and we always say, okay. Then your turn, in fact.
So he started to come to our houses, to our families. He became part of our families. He came to my house in Moza and sit with us and ate with us, talked to my boys. He came to Jericho and lived with Bassam. He made us tell him stories that we didn't have the nerve to tell ourselves. And one day he sent the first chapter. And Bassam told me, Rami, you read it. I don't have the time and the energy. And I started to read it, and it was really, really painful. This man had the ability to connect himself with our pain in a way that we didn't think possible enough. Usually, generally, it's very, very difficult to understand the pain of the other. You are concentrated in your pain, and other pains seems to be not important. And he came out with an amazing idea. He took the story of Scheherazade, the idea that Scheherazade has to tell a new story every night in order to stay alive. And he used the fact that it was the 5th time today where we spoke to his group to tell that we are talking again and again and again to so many groups, to so many people, in order to keep the girls alive, which is heart-touching, which is very, very true, which is giving us a reason to get out of bed in the morning. And then 2 years later, he came out with the book. I read it for the first time in the plane on my way to New York for the launching of the book, and I couldn't take it off my head. Because more than anything else, it's a masterpiece. It's a literature art work which catches you. It describes everything for the last details. It tells about the migration of birds to the Holy Land. It tells about the invention of the rubber bullet. It tells many, many stories which are being layer on layer and layer. In the end, you get a picture. And the picture is our story. It won many prizes. It was nominated to the Booker Prize. It was translated to 22 languages until now. And Steven Spielberg bought the rights to make a movie out of it, but he got cold feet in the end.
I want to say just not everything in the book is true. It's very important. I didn't read it, by the way, until now, but I hear that, like, for example, when I meet my wife, until we get married, it takes 34 days. Who believe it? So I said to him, it's not true. In fact, it's 31 days. and we are together this year for 31 years. So I survived.
Or he writes in the first chapter that Rami Elhanan jumped over his big black motorbike, put it in first gear, and drove towards Bethlehem. And I read it and I say, Callum, you should know, I have a Japanese motorbike, automatic. He said, no, it's more sexy this way.
I know that you came here this morning at 1 o'clock, more or less directly from Auschwitz, and that tomorrow you are going further for a few sessions in Switzerland, going then to Italy. My question would be, what keeps you going? How do you do it that each and every meeting with you gives anybody who listens to you the feeling that you're telling the story the first time?
It's your department.
I think this is what keeps us alive. I think this activity gives us a reason to wake up in the morning, to get out of bed in the morning. And you need to understand that usually we are speaking with high schools. And when we are stepping into a high school class, Israeli or Palestinian, they are not as polite and receptive as you are. It's like walking into an open mouth of an active volcano. The earth is shaking. There is a sea of blood between these two nations, a huge amount of emotions, and most of these kids, for the first time in their life, they see an Israeli and a Palestinian which are not fighting each other, which are calling each other brother, which are not putting their pain on the table, trying to compare whose pain is bigger, who started what, who's to blame. And this meeting creates the earthquake in which the light comes in. And the fact is that no one can listen to us and remain the same. In the end, they are standing in line to shake mostly his hand. And I always say, even if in the end of the class, there will be only one kid, Israeli or Palestinian, nodding his head with acceptance to this message, it's a miracle. It means that we saved one drop of blood. In Judaism, one drop of blood is the whole world. And I think we make a difference. And I think this difference gives meaning to our sacrifice. We lost 2 daughters that were not political. They were not soldiers. They were not involved in the conflict in any way. Their death was meaningless. So it's our task, it's our moral obligation to give a meaning to this futile death.
Is there any question or remark from your side?
I will try to speak in English. Yeah, it's okay. I listen to you. My name is Raphael. I was born in Jerusalem, and I'm Israeli and Jewish, and actually the same age as you. Sorry, it's not working. Okay, I have to repeat. So my name is Raphael, and I was born in Jerusalem, and I'm Israeli, and I'm Jewish, but I'm living in Germany since over 40 years. And it's pretty after the United Nations make the decision that Israel has the right to exist, you remember that? The 29th of November, if I remember that, 1947. And afterwards, the English Mandat people had to leave Israel after a big fight that the Israelis made, after the English people were playing hair play.
We really don't need a history lesson right now.
Excuse me. No, but I have the feeling you were talking. I'm feeling you were talking just a very one side. You know, it's not only Palestinians
I
who
will
are
give
suffering.
you the other side, yes.
Yeah, and I'm not. Don't think that I'm a right-wing Israeli. I am not.
No.
May I say something because you addressed me?
I'm talking to you because you were talking about 1949.
It's not my.
Many Palestinians had to leave their villages. The situation was before the war, as you call it, Nakba.
What happens now, from my understanding, as an Israeli, born in Jerusalem, living in Switzerland, what happens now is exactly what can stop from that point on hearing to these two men here. Because what happens now is this endless but, Aber. In German, it sounds even better. This land between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean, es ist das Aberland. You cannot say anything without hearing a but. What I said in the beginning, I said it being totally aware of what I'm saying. These are facts. These are facts, and what you are talking about, these also are facts. But we shall never stop and finish this conflict if we shall go on butting all the time.
Do you think he answered you a little bit? Did he answer you a little bit? You don't agree with him.
But there is some more to say, of course. I agree.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about.
Yeah, you are.
I think that it's very important if we want to reach peace, and I would like to have peace also. Don't mistake in understanding.
It's clear.
I think that we have to understand what happened, and we have to talk about what happened.
Absolutely.
Both sides.
Yes, absolutely. You're right.
It's not only the Palestinians who are suffering. We know that, and you know it.
Absolutely.
You are talking about it. But if we are trying to say Israel was the one who was sending the Palestinians in 1949 out of the country, that is not the whole story. I think it's important to say the whole story. What was happening?
I said it in the passive way. I said Palestinians had to leave. I didn't say anything about those who made them leave, and I wrote it down so you can look at it again. I know that you are right, but I think that what we heard now has a value which is beyond such a discussion about narratives.
Hi, my name is Jonas. I have a question for Bassam, I think, firstly.
You mean Rami? It's okay.
Sorry, it's you this time. Because you talked about sharing Holy Land, for example. And I thought to myself, well, maybe we have a bit of a simple way of understanding what sharing means here in the West. which I could describe as, well, we have a cake on the table, and then all the parties in your country and your region will come to the table. You discuss about who gets which slice, and then you go home. Is that what you mean by sharing, or could there be something different, like a different way of sharing? And what would that be? What would your way of sharing be?
Thank you for your question. It depends about the cake. If it's cheesecake, if it's... Let us go to the UN itself, which is created Israel. Perfect. There is a decision called 181 and 194. We are not politicians. We don't want to go to those numbers. We never talk about them. But Rafi, a little bit wake me up. Let us follow the UN and say 78% from historical Palestine will be the Israel, and 22% from historical Palestine will create the Palestinian empire there, the Palestinian state. This is how we want to share. Not for us, I'm talking politics. For us, we want to live in a safe place, to send our kids to their school and get them back safe. This is our state. But yes, we need to find a solution. Because unfortunately, you know, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is documented. It's not before 3,000 years. It's with the Second World War. It means everything almost documented. 76 years ago, 15,000 Palestinians have been killed. 531 Palestinian towns have been destroyed. 750,000 Palestinians have been deported. They didn't leave their land because it was raining at night and they escaped, and suddenly they found themselves in Syria and Lebanon and Jordan and the West Bank. Those are facts. How to solve the problem? To recognize their pain, to tell the truth, and to recognize that the Palestinians have the right in self-determination, and to follow the UN and accept the
partition of the country.
Partition of the country, and to create a Palestinian state. This is how we would like to share, because we don't want to throw the Israelis to the sea. You know why? Because today all the Israelis, they know how to swim, so they will come back. So there is no point to start from the beginning. In spite this history, they want to convince us that the whole conflict started 1 year ago, in the 7th of October, which is not.
I would like to say a word about the solution, if I may.
Please do.
You know, I told you that we get into a high school and we are not putting our pain on the table trying to compare. I think one of the essence of the problem, of the ability of people to have a well-educated discussion. There is a problem, we need to solve it. Now what happened is that it developed, especially after October 7th, but also before, into a competition of victimhood. The whole world is sitting on the balcony looking at those two crazy nations like a reality game in television with the mentality of sport fans, of football teams. My team against your team, your victory is my loss, and total ability of compassion, total inability of listening to each other, and total inability to sympathize with the pain of each other. And our message is we paid the price of this process. It is the highest price possible that people can tell. And we are saying that Hamas people that did the massacre on October 7th were 12 and 10 years old kids in 2014, when the last crisis in Gaza took place. What will happen with the 40,000 dead and their relatives? When will be the next 7th of October? And this is exactly the most important thing, because it really doesn't matter. The solution lies on the table, waiting to be signed. Everybody knows exactly what should be done in order to solve this stupid conflict tomorrow morning. We can have one state, we can have two states, we can have 10,000 states, we can have federation, we can have confederation. There are so many examples. Your country is the most vivid examples of the ability of two nations to live together in the same lane. In the United States, in Belgium, other places. A state is not something sacred. A state is a tool. You need to pay your taxes, you get security, you get education, you get roads. You don't have to kill and die for it. And like these solutions, it's a technical issue. One word is essential. Without it, nothing will happen. And the word is respect. Bassam was talking about it. You have to be able to respect the guy next to you exactly as you want to be respected. No more and no less, exactly. And then if you achieve this, all the rest are technicalities. You can have the Temple Mount for 2 hours, I will have it for another 2 hours.
1 hour.
Okay, you can take it all. Now, digging into our wounds and make this competition of victimhood and showing our wounds, ugly wounds, the ugliest the better, will take us nowhere. We, from the depth of our pain, we're going from ear to ear, from heart to heart, from mind to mind, and we tell them, let us stop remembering everything. Let us start forgetting. Let us looking forward instead of backwards. Let us stop digging into our wounds and crutch it until they bleed. Let us find a solution. And the solution is very simple. Between the river and the sea, everyone should be free. Everyone should be respected. Everyone should live.
Also an Israeli, living in Switzerland. My family is still in Israel. And first of all, I wanted to say that it's beautiful what you're showing here. I mean, I'm sorry for the circumstances and your sacrifices that brought you there, but I really think that's exactly the way to see each other as human beings and compassion and what you just said, like try to look forward and not backward. And all this history and argue about details, what was 8 years ago, doesn't help us. We just need to find a way now forward. And what you suggest, like, it's clear that any solution has to be like some kind of country for the Palestinians next to ours. I just want to say, I think at least half of the Israelis and the Palestinians, I think so anyway, are also in this state of mind. I think maybe even the majority of the Israelis and Palestinians also are tired of all this killing and also want this kind of a solution. And I have a feeling that the extremists of both sides, they are ruining it for the rest of us. So I think, like, for example, you talked about it before, the Oslo situation, like 30 years ago in the 90s, with Rabin, Arafat, and Peres, it gave hope for the countries. It was, I think, they had a lot of support for it, and the extremists ruined it. And I hope that at some point, like, the message that you send will catch more and more, and eventually, yeah, we stop scratching our scars and just stop, understand that both of our sides are victims, and it's not a competition who's more victim, and just, yeah, live as two states or whatever, how many states next to each other. So I wanted basically just to say thank you, and it's beautiful what you're doing, and just, yeah.
Thank you.
So there are some people wanting to say something, but I would like to first ask if there is a student from the schools that are here who would like to say something or ask something. That would be wonderful. Is there a student, eine Schülerin, ja?
They told us that the students here are the best, so show us.
Yes. So, ja, genau. Dahin.
Hello. If I may, how did your families, or how are they dealing with the death of your daughters?
Amazing question. Thank you. Yalla, Abu Arab.
You know, we said that death is not painful for the dead people. We have other tragedies after that. And one of them was with my son. He was 13 years old when he lost his sister. He escaped from his school 3 times to throw stones. He wanted to take revenge. You don't understand. In spite, Rami like his uncle in our house, but Rami is a different kind of Israelis or Jewish. Briefly takes me 4 years to educate him, to convince him. You cannot enforce anyone to follow your steps until he understands that this is not the right way. And I convince him, as Rumi said again, and you need to learn it, it's very important. He says, yesterday I was clever, so I start to change the world. Today I am wise, so I start to change myself. If you don't change yourself, your point of view, you will never change anything. So luckily he joined the parent circle after 4 years. And Combatants for Peace, and find to himself a partner, it's not Ben Zug, huh? Partner for Peace, and his partner's name, Elik Elhanan, by chance, Rami's son, and they are going together everywhere around the world to tell their own story, and we are very proud of them, and Rami always said they are much, much better than us. And you need to see them together. You know, I feel that I make peace with myself and my son. This is the peace. When you give up to be a victim, you become free man. No one can occupy you. And this is our mission in life. You said, what's the motivation? We have a purpose in our life. Our life is our message. And because we love our kids, our children, we will never stop. I wrote where Abir fell down when he shot her that your killer will die and you will live longer than him, because I am going to tell your story everywhere in the world as long as I live, not because she's a Palestinian. Killing kids and children and innocent people and civilians, it's unjustifiable under any circumstances. There is no honor in killing kids. Thank you.
Wenn jemand auch auf Deutsch fragen möchte oder etwas sagen möchte, ist es auch sehr schön. Nochmal vielleicht eine Schülerin oder ein Schüler. Wir haben so eine Freude, dass Sie gekommen sind. Sonst würde ich dann bitten, Gerald Heffner hat sich gemeldet. Ja.
Thank you so much for sharing with us your incredible story to overcome your pain and hate and build peace on graves. And let me express my hope that what you could do, every person could do. And let me therefore ask you, could also 2 people do this? And what would be the steps, the preconditions? And what can we here in Switzerland do to help for that?
This is exactly for you.
I think that the key word in every human relationship, in every interaction, is compassion, is the ability to listen to other, is the ability to give space to the other, even if you don't understand, if you don't justify, if you don't want to listen. You have to be able to create this space. You have, as I said earlier, to use one word. You need to respect the guy in front of you exactly as you want to be respected. And when you start talking, and when you start analyzing the past to its very little details, and look at the prospects of the future, and share the pain, then you have a chance. It's not for granted. It's sometimes unbelievably horrible and dangerous and complicated. But we always say that the Irish people hated each other dramatically. It took them 800 years to stop killing each other. Look at the Berlin Wall. Look at the Soviet Empire collapsing. Look at the apartheid regime. Look at the relationship between the United States and Japan. History have its way, have its direction. And if you rise above the moment and look at the wider picture and able to understand and listen and analyze what happened in a look for the future, you have a chance.
I want to say that until you discover your own humanity, you will be stuck in your nationality, your history, your story, your fear. And luckily I am not a Jew. Luckily I am not an Israeli. Why? Because I don't hold on my shoulders 3,000 years of history when I was 4 and 5 years old. It's not uneasy to be a Jew in the world, not in Israel, because of this education system. You're born as a victim. On the other side, other peoples, they're born as guilt, which is a disaster. I am talking about you, about the Polish, and mainly about the German people. Now, to feel guilt because he's a German. And I said to them, always we said to them, you need to release yourself from the guilt mentality, exactly as we need to release ourselves from the victimhood mentality. Because as long as you feel guilt, you will never act. You don't have the moral authority to act and to raise up your voice against any evil because you was there. It's not you. You are not responsible to that criminal history. But you need to be responsible, not to feel guilt, not to repeat it again, and not against any other people, not only one side against the other side. So when you discover that your enemy is exactly like you, when you discover the humanity and the nobility of your enemy, this is the beginning of the end of the conflict. He is not your enemy anymore. It's happened to me personally when I met this noble man. Don't think that it's easy for me to say about Rami, my friend, or my brother. What's the meaning of brother? And it's not a big honor for a Palestinian to have a friend from the Israeli side. They are occupiers. They occupied my people. So imagine to say brothers, our relationship above any conflict. Because again, it's fact, since we met, I fell in love with this man because we share the same values. We care about you and the Palestinians and the Americans and the Israelis and the Iraqis. We want to protect the humanity, our fellow people, we belong to the mankind. So I don't talk as a Palestinian. I believe the only difference between you and me, I am a Muslim. That's it. And Islam told me to respect you and him, his way. I am not responsible for your behavior. I don't want to enforce you to follow my steps. I don't create you even. So it's up to you. And this is the philosophy of religions, to respect each other, no more. So our conflict is not a religious one, because when you act in the name of God, there is no negotiations. That's it. It's faith. So how we can continue to learn from history and not to be in the jail of the history, to be stuck in this very painful cycle. Believe me, we can talk about the Holocaust another 75 years, but it's over. We can talk about other tragedies, but it's over. Past is past. Let us look forward. And always I said, the Israelis didn't kill 6 million Palestinians.
Yet.
And the Palestinians didn't kill 6 million Israelis. It's fact. And there is a German ambassador in Tel Aviv. And there is an Israeli ambassador in Berlin. 4 years after 6 million victims. What's that mean? Simply, we can do it. The level of blood and hatred didn't arrive to this level. We only need one leader, a great leader, to lead us towards the future. And stop repeating the Holocaust 5 times a day, like I pray 5 times a day, to create more fear from the future. This is the only way to look forward for our kids. Our kids, it means in both sides. Otherwise, we will continue to act as victims. Thank you.
I would not. I definitely don't want to occupy you. But we sit here in this hall in the Goetheanum, and what I hear from you suddenly sounds to me as applied anthroposophy. You don't talk about the theory, you live reality. In one of the interviews I was looking at with you both in order to get into the atmosphere, you, Rami, said the one question was not being asked, but it was asked by Gerold.
Yes.
The question is, what can we do? And by that, we shall maybe close the evening.
Thank you, Udi. This is really the most important question of them all. What will be the message that you will take from this evening? What will you dream about tonight? What will be the action that you will take tomorrow morning? I'm a son of a Holocaust survivor. My late father was an Auschwitz graduate. 85 years ago, while they took my grandparents to the ovens here in Europe, the free and civilized world stood aside, never lifting one finger. And today, so many years after, while these two crazy nations of ours are massacring each other without any mercy, while this genocide is taking place in Syria, in the Ukraine, wherever you look, atrocities, the free and civilized world is still standing aside, doing nothing. And standing aside while a crime is being committed is also a crime. Now, we don't want you to import our conflict to your society. You have enough problems of your own. We don't need you to be pro-Israeli or pro-Palestinian. This will not help us at all. On the contrary, we demand of you to be pro-peace. We demand of you to be against injustice and against this ongoing situation in which one people is dominating another. This is the essence of the problem today. It can be changed. It must be changed. And I will finish with the message of a Jew. And I am a proud Jew with the utmost respect to my history, to my people, to my tradition, and my religion. And I will tell you that ruling and oppressing and humiliating and occupying millions and millions of people for so many years without any democratic right is not Jewish. Period. There are no two ways about it. And being against it is not anti-Semitism. And if you get into an argument, you can quote me.
Write his name. His name is Rami Elhanan. You will argue a lot.
And we thank you from the bottom of our heart for being here tonight. You give us hope.